Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of our Winter 2021 webinars. Today's topic is Mathematics Education in France. We have with us on the panel today Dr. Christophe Giraud, Head of the Master Program of Mathematics and Applications, and Dr. Stéphane Nonenmacher, Director of the Hadamard Doctoral Mathematics School, both from the University of Paris Saclay, and Mr. Aveek Mukherjee, VP of SaaS Business and Analytics at Spidio and alumni of INP Grenoble. Dr. Giraud, Dr. Noran Masher, Mr. Mukherjee, thank you for being with us today. We'll start with a short discussion on the peculiarities of the domain of mathematics in France, and after that, a presentation on the courses available at Paris Saclay, both at the master's and doctoral level. And then we'll hear Mr. Mukherjee on his experience of studying and working in France. I also invite you to pose any questions that you may have for our panel in the comment section, and we'll be happy to pick up a few at the end of our webinar. With that, let's begin. My first question would be to Dr. Giraud and Dr. Noran Masher. We know that France has a very high degree of excellence in the domain. France has won about 12 Fields medals over the years, the second highest number. We also know that half the researchers at French doctoral schools are international students. So what is it about the French system that attracts the best and the brightest? Is it the quality of teaching or something else that is driving this outperformance?
Okay, so I could say that okay, there are many factors. There are many factors which have be responsible with help the success of French mathematicians, or I would say French-based mathematicians, because among these 12 Fields medalists, many of them, a certain number of them were not really French, but they were foreigners who had moved to France to work. Okay, so this has to be said. So of course, I mean, during the years, the French education system at the lower level, I mean, at elementary school and secondary school was famous for being pretty good in sciences, especially in mathematics, and then this went on to the to the university level. Okay, and we had in France this dual system of école préparatoire and universities, and somehow this école préparatoire track was supposed to be very elitist. Okay, and therefore produce people of very high level. Of course, this is okay. This is still the case at the moment, but this does not explain why foreign people are coming to France, because these foreign people, most of them, they don't go through this system of école préparatoire. They come later, okay, and then at the master level or at the PhD level or even after, okay, and so they are maybe attracted by let's say relatively good working conditions. So if you look at good working conditions, what is the conditions? It is not really in terms of salaries, because the salary of academics is not very high compared with other European countries. But it is at the level of maybe the number of people. If you look at the number of permanent people in a typical math laboratory, it is larger than what it is in neighboring countries, okay, like Germany, especially like Germany. And also somehow people were used to be hired on permanent jobs pretty early in the career. That is after, well, 20 years ago, they were hired. Some of them were hired directly after they finished the PhD. Nowadays, you have to do a few years of postdoc, sometimes 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but not usually not more. And well, if you are good, if you have a good research curriculum, you can be hired. So this was quite attractive, okay, to people, because in some other countries you have to wait for 10 years or 15 years before being hired for good. Okay, so this system, which is totally supported by the government, it's a public system. It's not a private system. I mean, universities are public. Okay, so when you're hired, you become a civil servant, and so which means that you have position for life. Okay. So this type of job security was also a big advantage, I would say. And also we have one asset, which is the so-called CNRS, which is the center of National Center of Research, scientific research, and which covers all sciences, including mathematics. And people at CNRS, they are pure researchers. They're not supposed to teach. Of course, they can teach if they want, but they're not forced to teach. It's not in the contract. They're just supposed to do research. And some people, some foreign academics, who are very good, sometimes they don't like to teach so much, grade exams, etc. So having this possibility to be hired as a pure researcher was also a specific asset of the French system, I would say. So at CNRS, we have many foreigners, okay, who come and who have a great curricula, great research records, and then they're hired and they can stay there for their life. Okay, it's not it's also a full-time job. I mean, a permanent job. Okay, so I cannot really compare the teaching system as far as the students are concerned. I don't know if the teaching is done better here than in neighboring countries. But I would say that the academic system, that the job system, the way people are hired and the type of job which is available and the number of jobs which is available, even though it has declined through the last 20 years, it is still quite large compared with the neighboring countries. Okay, so it still attracts people. But on the other hand, we don't attract so many people from Anglo-Saxon countries, okay, because Anglo-Saxon countries are quite attractive to each other. So, for instance, at least in our universities, we don't attract so many Indian students or less even Indian colleagues. Okay, so I'm not
But I
aware
understand the
in my
number of
lab.
English-taught courses is rising day by day. So that's a good reason for students, for example, from India or other
Yes,
English-speaking countries to visit.
that's right. That's right. I'm not saying that we don't want these students to come. Okay, we are trying to change a bit. Until recently, at least in mathematics at Université Paris-Saclay, most of the lectures, even at the master level, most of the lectures were given in French. But this is changing. Okay, so we're making efforts to change courses into English courses. Nevertheless, maybe Christophe can talk about this, but when students from non-speaking students are coming to France to study at the master level or even at PhD level, they are strongly encouraged to take French classes, okay, either before coming or during their stay. Actually, in the master, I think in the master curriculum, they are supposed to take French classes. I mean, it's not an option. I mean, it's compulsory in some sense. Because even if the some classes are in English, maybe next year the class you want to take will be in French. Okay, and then but apart from that, if you live in a country, it's more comfortable to understand a bit the language. Okay, and there are also reasons. For instance, when you are a PhD student, okay, in general you have a fellowship for 3 years. But sometimes your PhD drags on. You need a few more months to finish. And what are the options for funding? The option for funding for 1 year after this 3-year fellowship is to take a teaching position. There are teaching positions which are specifically directed towards PhD students, ending PhD students. And for these teaching positions, which are called ATER, okay, 8 years, so it's a temporary position for 1 year or sometimes 2 years, you need to speak French, because you are teaching at the bachelor level, and then at bachelor level, the courses are in French. Okay, so you need to be able to communicate with your students. So for this, you need absolutely French. So we had examples of students who did not take French classes until the last year of their PhD, and then the last year of your PhD, they started to panic, to say, "Oh my God, I will not manage to finish my PhD, to defend it before the end of the year. What can I do?" And they had to learn French in 6 months, which was like a huge effort, I think. So that's why, I mean, I still advise, even though we are making efforts to try to propose
That is
more
actually a good
classes in English. This
a
is
good
still
advice to our students, that you should take even if you are studying a mathematics program, it doesn't matter if it's a mathematics program, if it's a business program, if it's an engineering program, do not neglect the language aspect of it. That's very, very important, because at some point you'll have to enter the workforce, and it's very important for that.
Yes.
The same question to Dr. Giraud. Your thoughts on the excellence of the French system. Why is it outperforming most other countries, most other OECD countries when it comes to the domain of mathematics?
Well, so there is already what so Stefan has explained, which is the fact that there is some excellence at the low level in math teaching. So that's why there is a high level in math in France. And also, I think that there is a special care, at least at Université Paris-Saclay, there is a special care about the students, where we try to to help them to build their curriculum and etc. So there is a special care. I think there is also many good PhD advisors PhD advisors in France, you know, they are really helping the students. So I think that all this is you know, this is a good place if you want to have people which helps you in building your project. And I think this is maybe one of the reasons. And just to go further on what Stefan Mascher was saying, so we are more and more teaching in English. So we want to be more friendly with foreign students. So we are more and more teaching in English, and especially at the master level. So at the master level, you can do a curriculum in English. But the point is that we also want students to learn French, because it is very useful to speak French if you want to live in France. So learning French is also mandatory. So you have to learn French, but you have courses in English if you want. So not all the courses, but you can do a curriculum in English.
Thank you. Secondly, coming to the relationship of academia with the industry in France, to what degree are you supported by your industry counterparts? Is it a driving force in fundamental and applied research mathematics in France?
Okay, so maybe I can answer. I am coming from applied mathematics, and in particular at the interface between statistics and machine learning. So I know what it means, interaction with the industry. So there is some interaction, strong interaction between industry and academy, and in particular in my field, because you know, there are many researcher positions now in the industry. So you know, there are some people that were in the academy which now are in the industry, and they came back in the academy. So there are this kind of relationship, and also because many of our students are, you know, doing a PhD or just start working in the industry. So we have strong link. So this is not really this is not the industry which is supporting research. There are not so many research projects which are funded by the industry, but there are many links, and you know, the industry is very active on many different fields. And to give you an idea, for example, we have some professors at Orsay which are part-time in the industry and part-time in the lab. So they are half academic and half in the industry. So we have this kind of strong connection. Sometimes I will enjoy to have even stronger connection, but well, so this is just my own view. But this is something which is working well, at least in my field. In pure math, of course, it is quite different. So maybe Stefan can give better explanations than me. But still, there are many people which have done some pure math and then have moved in the industry. So well, it is very it is well known that in some you know, in some like in Google, for example, just not to give any name, you have like 1/3 of the people which have a PhD in pure math. So maybe Stefan may.
Yes. So I mean, it's true that I would not say that the industry is helping fundamental research like funding a project, etc. I mean, that's not true. I mean, you know, industry, they want to know what they pay for. So there are some exceptions, of course. There are some foundations which fund a few PhD projects, even at the very fundamental level. Okay, this exists, but this is extremely competitive, and this is really a very tiny minority of PhDs which are funded. There are, on the other hand, there are PhD projects which are specifically dual between an academic lab and an industry lab. Okay, so they are so-called CIFRE PhD grants, PhD fellowships. So they are funded partly by mostly, I think, by the Ministry of Research, and partly by the company. Okay, so and these are, let's say, so in order to obtain better salaries than just a standard PhD salary. But these projects are really dual. The student is supposed to take to spend part of this time in the company, in the industry lab, and part of his time in the academic lab, in order to pursue his PhD, to prepare his PhD. So this type of fellowships is quite efficient, I would say, to keep links or to connect academic labs to industry labs. Okay, and this is very I mean, I used to work before coming to mathematics in Orsay, I used to work in a theoretical physics lab, and somehow this type of fellowships was not available. So for some reason, okay. So I discovered that when I came to Orsay, and this is very efficient to keep connections alive between research industry research lab and academic labs. Okay, so this is specifically for PhD. And of course, also at the master level in applied mathematics, students are supposed to take internships, to make internships, like a long internship, and this is done typically in industry labs. Okay, so of course, and quite often this continues into preparation of a PhD. Okay. So I would say that these connections with industry mostly concern, as Christophe said, applied mathematics. In fundamental mathematics, this is really not so much. But of course, as he said, there are students, there are people who first want to do who want to do a PhD in pure mathematics because they love it, they're interested. But then afterwards, okay, they choose to have a professional career in the industry. Okay, so they manage in general, they manage to let's say to switch to applied stuff, or to switch to more applied science. Okay, in this direction, it's easier than it would be in the other direction, I guess. Okay, when you've done.
Okay. Thank you. My third question would actually be to Mr. Mukherjee. What would be your advice to students to integrate well into the French system? Having studied in both India and France, what differences and similarities have you noticed?
Correct. So, well, what Professor Stefan already mentioned, that it's very important to understand French. Like when I first moved into France, I didn't even know a single word of French, right? So it was a bit difficult for me, honestly, but luckily my course was in English. So I managed to survive in the course. And also there were mandatory French courses. So my course was helping me a lot in learning French, and that was very easy for me to enter the workforce. So this is something that I want to tell all the young people who are coming in, that it's absolutely important to invest in French, okay, to integrate well in the French society. Even if your course is in English, you will talk to your friends and colleagues in English. You have to understand French, you have to talk French to integrate into the French society. There is another critical thing I want to highlight, that in India, we are all used to, at least in the engineering colleges, like my background is in computer science, right? Computer science and applied mathematics. Like Professor Giro said, that it's statistics, machine learning. I come from the similar field, right? So in India, we are very used to this concept of campus placement. What happens is companies directly come to your campus and you are recruited even before you graduate. This thing is very difficult in France. Like I studied in the east of France in a city called Grenoble. It is a pretty good college in France. We had many companies that came over there, but it hardly happens that they recruit you before you even graduate. Over here, there are strict rules to follow. There are strict certificates that you need to wait to have before you can even apply in the industry. And you are mostly responsible for building the contact with the industry. It's not something that is negative, okay, it's different, okay. It doesn't happen it doesn't happen the other way around. It is, you are responsible for connecting with the companies. Your college is going, normally your college has cells who try their efforts to connect you with the industry counterparts. And well, I would say that since the time I came, especially in the domain of mathematics, the connections are only improving. Like France is a country where where big companies are looking to invest for topics like applied mathematics. I can only talk about applied mathematics because that's the domain I come from, right? Well, it's also a bit special for me because I don't only come from applied mathematics. I did a specialization in human computer interaction, meaning well, you might often people might say, well, mathematics is so dry, there's no design involved, but that's not really the case anymore. You know, the applications of mathematics are extending well beyond theoretical mathematics, okay, and there is no single industry that can afford not to invest in mathematics today. It's applied everywhere. Even when you are designing, to understand the impact of a design, we use mathematics to study where exactly are problems, right? And I am in the field which is called data analytics. In my domain, especially, the application of mathematics is becoming so important. I'll give you a very simple problem, okay? Imagine you have to make a count of numbers. Like numbers are coming, like in our domain, a lot of numbers are coming. And when the amount of numbers are so huge, that you cannot even do a simple count like a sum. So there are new algorithms which are not so old, which have been discovered in the field of pure mathematics, which are coming into this domain of applied mathematics and into computer science. And it will only improve in the coming days. We are only going to need more and more people from pure mathematics working in the field of computer science and other various related fields in the coming days, right? There is no industry that cannot afford not to invest today.
I'm actually glad that you brought up that part about the managing expectations, because you will not have the concept of campus placements which we have in India, which might seem very alien to students who are not Indian, but for Indians it's kind of a thing where we are used to it. But in mathematics it's really the same in any other domain, that you have to be able to take advantage of all the resources that's present to you, including but not limited to networking as much as possible. So for you, how was that journey, and how quickly did you manage the transition from academia to industry?
Correct. So for me, the journey, I cannot say was super smooth. Okay, I took some time to learn that journey. I might have received approximately 200 rejections to my job applications. Finally, after graduating, I got into a company called General Electric, which is an industrial company and which invests heavily in this domain that I am in, like data analytics. So I had to apply myself using professional networking media like LinkedIn and stuff like that, right? Well, I definitely had jobs, but jobs that I would not want to do. Like those are not something I trained myself so much to do. So I was looking something very, very niche, and that is something I only found in this big company called General Electric. Okay. But as you said, yeah, I did a lot of networking on LinkedIn and other job forums, and I was also looking a lot. Like the other option that I had in my hand was something that Professor Stefan also mentioned. That's the CIFRE project. Like I had many offers of PhD as well, but then this CIFRE is something. It's a very interesting PhD because you are in the industry, but you are also in the research domain, and your PhD salary is sponsored. Okay, not sponsored, but you get a good salary. Let's say you get a very good salary. So if you are interested in this research domain and also you want to keep one foot in the industry, you can continue this way. There are so many options over here, right? So there are specific dedicated websites in France that lists this CIFRE project, and you should be very active in looking for these CIFRE projects in these specific websites. Like at your final year, you should know what are these specific websites where I should be going into, and what are the email lists in which I should be subscribing myself, so that I know when a new opportunity comes up, right? And I was working in a research lab internally in this domain of this research in which I was working. We had internal mailing lists which were collected by a group of institutes, right, who are working in similar domain, and there is a circulation of job opportunities that are available. So these things might not be official available under one single roof, but these kind of help do exist, and we should look out for them. We should ask our professors, ask our colleagues, ask our administrative person. Like we should be curious, like we should take the lead on ourselves.
Thank you. Keeping one eye on the clock, my final question before we move on to the presentation, looking ahead to the new decade, what areas of or specialization of fundamental mathematics do you currently see as being the most exciting? This question is, by the way, for the entire panel. And I ask this because we have some bachelor's or master's viewers who have yet to make a choice on their specialization. So what new areas of applied or fundamental mathematics are you most excited about?
There are many.
Start with your field, please.
Right. Well, in our field, there are daily advancements happening. Right. I cannot just name one field, but even in the daily workflow around the algorithm, simple things like predictions, how you predict what's going to happen next. Even in simple stuff like this, there are so many advancements that are happening. Right. And these are all happening thanks to advancements in mathematics. Right. Mm-hmm. Every time you use a computer, use a software, if it's becoming faster, if it's becoming more usable, it's thanks, there has to be a major part that is happening thanks to advancements in mathematics, because we are learning how to do things faster, how to improve the user experience thanks to learning how we have done things before, right? Since we know since we are learning from the data that we have collected, we can predict what's going to happen next. And these kind of improvements are only going to get better and better and better. Right?
Yeah, yes, I fully agree with that. I think that so again in the same field, there is many things to understand in machine learning and in deep learning and in doing prediction. Why does it work? We have some idea, but to have a deep understanding of this is really mystery, and it is improving, but still there is a lot of things to understand. And what is very interesting, it is you have an interplay of statistics and computer science and optimization, and also some other fields that was maybe not expected, like PDEs and all this kind of stuff. And you have to understand a lot of mathematics in order to try to have a better understanding of simple things in deep learning. And the idea is that once you have a better understanding of what is happening, now you can think about how to improve. And the idea, of course, is at the end to improve the algorithm. Okay, so you do not just want to understand. So I want to understand, but there are some people that want to have a better prediction, and for this you really need math. So this is a field where there are many things to discover, but here this is really on the applied side.
Yes. So, well, I can speak a little bit about the more fundamental parts. Okay, I work in PDEs. Okay, let's say in fundamental PDEs in some sense, which are also not so fundamental if you compare them with the algebraic geometry or this type of parts. Okay, so I would say that one part of mathematics which has developed a lot was somehow let's say helped or was pushed by recent advances in theoretical physics. So I know that has been advanced in theoretical physics, mostly in high energy physics, also in statistical physics. There has been some people have uncovered new structures and have written equations, but with no proofs. Okay, somehow have written formulas, for complicated geometric objects like counting Riemann surfaces or counting how many universes you have. I mean, this has led to very interesting and deep geometrical questions, which have really flourished then in mathematics. So this is part of mathematics which uses both algebra, like homology, cohomology, homotopy, etc., and geometry, Riemannian geometry or complex geometry, and which also connect with the algebraic geometry. So this has required a lot of technology, and let's say that mathematics has really gained from this interaction with theoretical physics. So as I say, I used to work in the theoretical physics lab where most people did not write theorems. I mean, they were writing equations or propose things without proofs. And here I'm on the math side, so I see people trying. I mean, let's say being very interested in, let's say, I see that their research is really motivated a lot by these advances in theoretical physics. Also in probability theory, for instance, there are recent results in conformal field theory. Conformal field theory is a theory which has been developed in physics in the 80s and 90s, and it has really now, there is a sort of flourishing new approach, probabilistic approach to this conformal field theory, which is really pushing a lot of people in probability theory. So I would say that this interaction between theoretical physics and mathematics has been very successful. I'm sure that it will continue. Okay, and some very high people, I mean, very famous people are like Maxim Kontsevich, is really at the heart of this interaction. So, or Smirnov, in Geneva or whatever. So I think that this part of mathematics which is let's say induced or supported or pushed by theoretical physics is still going on very much, I would say. Okay. Well, apart from that, I mean, there are all the parts of mathematics which are also everything which is connected with the Lagrange program in algebraic geometry is still very active. I mean, it attracts very good people, and so I cannot comment in much detail because I'm not a specialist at all. But I know that here in our lab, in Orsay at least, I mean, the people who work in algebraic geometry are still pretty much also into this direction, okay, and various aspects of the Lagrange program, okay. So in France, I mean, France somehow has been pretty strong. I mean, we have several Fields Medal who have been working on this. So of course, this has consequences. Okay, so you still have a school. Somehow you have a school of people. Okay, starting maybe from Grothendieck in the 60s and even before, but who has really developed a lot, and who is still very, very active. Okay. So of course I could go on in other directions, but maybe that's my view of what would be interesting in the next years. Okay.
Thank you to our panelists.
So this connects several parts of mathematics. You know, you have algebraic geometry, or also some parts of PDEs, etc. Many parts.
Thank you to our panelists for that enlightening session. We move on to a presentation about the master's programs and the doctoral school at Paris Saclay. So, Dr. Giraud, the floor is yours. Please feel free to share your screen.
All right, so you should now see my screen. Okay, so I was looking for the pointers. I don't know what I can see it. Okay, I can see it, but anyway. So I will talk about the master program Mathematics and Application. So I am professor at the Université Paris Saclay, and I am in charge of this program. And, okay, doesn't work. Okay. So before introducing the program, maybe I just want to explain to you how are the graduate studies in France. Because it is not the same in all the countries. So in France, you first do 2 years in a master program, and this is what I will present. And then you spend 3 years as a PhD student, where you have a PhD advisor, and you end with a PhD. And of course, you can stop at the end of the master program and go in the industry, or you then do 3 years as a PhD student. So what I will present to you is the master program Mathematics and Application, and this is a joint master program between Paris Saclay University and Institut Polytechnique de Paris. So these are 2 big universities which are very close to each other. They are located at the same place, and they have very strong connection in math. We are working together. We have a common foundation. I will come back on this a bit later for funding. So we are strongly connected, and we offer a joint master program. So this is a very big master program. It covers almost all the spectrum in math. And to give you an idea, there are more than 800 students which are enrolled every year. So there are many different students, and there are hundreds of different courses. So there are many different tracks and courses, and you can do many different things. So to give you an idea, so this is how this program is organized. So I will not give a full explanation. So at the bottom, you have the first year of the master program, then you have the second year, and then you can enter into a PhD or go into the industry. So what you can see, especially if you look at the second year, you have many different tracks. So these are different tracks, and in each track, then you have many different possible choices of courses, and you can also have sub-tracks into the tracks. So this is something very complex, but fortunately for foreign students, this is much simpler. Essentially, what is interesting for you is are the 2 tracks which are in red, which are Hadamard track and the Math AI track, which are the 2 tracks that we recommend for foreign students. So I will explain what are these 2 tracks. So the main tracks for foreign students is what is called the Jacques Hadamard track. So Jacques Hadamard is a French mathematician which has worked on many different fields, and as you may see, everything around is Jacques Hadamard something. So you may have a Jacques Hadamard scholarship, and you can follow Jacques Hadamard track, or you can do a PhD in the École Doctorale Jacques Hadamard. And so this is really an elite track. And in this track, you can do pure math, you can do applied math, and you can do both pure and applied math. Okay, so you have a very broad spectrum of courses of a very high level. And the idea is that, so as I told you, there are hundreds of possible courses. So the idea is that in this track, you can do your own program. So you have a personalized program. You choose the courses that you want to follow. And there is someone which helps you to build your own program and to build, you know, your project, your life project, what you want to do after your master. Okay, do you want, if you want, typically people want to do a PhD. So what kind of topic do you want to work on, and if you want to work on this topic, which course should you follow, etc. So you have someone which helps you, which is called a mentor, which helps you in order to build your own program. So this program, so as I told you, so there are two big universities, which are Université Paris-Saclay and the Institut Polytechnique de Paris. But what is special is that inside these big universities, there is something like you would say like a college. So for example, there is Orsay, where I'm coming from, and also Stéphane Mascher. There is École Normale Supérieure Paris-Saclay, which is another college. And it is the same at Institut Polytechnique. You have École Polytechnique, but you also have something which is called NSAE or some other places. Okay, so inside Université Paris-Saclay, so there are two people which are in charge of this program, so which corresponds to two different colleges, but at the end they follow mostly the same courses, which is Nicolas Burck at Orsay and Frédéric Pascal at ENS. And of course, you can find his name just by Googling. So this is really the main program. If you want to do math, pure or applied math, and you're coming from abroad, I really recommend to apply for this program because it is much more suited than the other program for people from abroad. There is another program also which is very suited, but which is very specific. This is mathematics for artificial intelligence track. So this is really a track which is so it is mathematics but oriented towards artificial intelligence, right? So you have very high level courses in math and computer science. You have research seminar and project, and again you can do your own personalized program depending on what you want to do, and you have a mentor which helps you to build your own program. Okay, and this is not a big program with hundreds of students. The idea is really to take students from the 1 year of master towards a PhD. So it is limited to 20 students currently, at least. Okay, so this corresponds to two tracks, which are M1 and M2. And so if I come back, this corresponds to the two red tracks. What can happen, you can do the first year in Hadamard, and then you can go in some other second year. Maybe I will explain a few of them, like MVA or AAG. So I will explain what it is. Or you can stay for 2 years in this program. Okay, so I will explain what there is in terms of second year, and also sometimes, and quite often at least, there are some students which are arriving at the M2 level, essentially because if you want to do a PhD in France, usually it's a good thing to do first at least 1 year of master program in France. And in this case, of course, you will start, you will go at the M2 level. But for this, you need to have a very good level in order to enter into the M2 level. So here is a selected list. I will not list all the program, but there are the more relevant one. So for example, in pure math, you have a very strong second year, which is analysis, arithmetic, and geometry, AAG, where you have algebraic geometry, number theory, but also analysis and many different things. So you have many different courses. And if you want to have an idea of what are the courses, the best is to go on the website and look at the courses on the website. There is another M2, which is analysis, modeling, and simulation. So it is about PDE and modeling with PDE and doing simulation. So there are some pure maths part, and there are also some more applied part in this second year. There is another track with which is math for life sciences. So this is really applied math at the interface with the life sciences. You have another program which is math of randomness. So it is about probability and statistics and machine learning. Quite similar, there is also another track which is mathematics, vision, and learning. So this is about machine learning, computer vision, and artificial intelligence. And there is also another track which is about optimization, where you will have a lot of optimization, observational research, game theory, and etc. So I will not give detail on all this track. As I told you, there are hundreds of courses, so we would spend one day just to explain everything everywhere. And the best is to have a look at the website. Just two important things. So if you want to apply, so you have online applications. So if you want to apply at the master program, so you have some specific online address. This is this one, and I can share it with you if you want. And which is also important for you, there are some scholarship. So there are different kinds of scholarships. There are some national scholarship, like Bourse Eiffel, for example, from Campus France. But there are also some local scholarship, like FMGH. So FMGH is a Fondation Mathématique, so Mathematical Foundation, and DH is for Jacques Hadamard. So as I told you, Jacques Hadamard is everywhere. And there are some scholarship. And really, if you want to do a master, to do a master program in Université Paris-Saclay, really you should apply to this scholarship in order to have some funding for coming in France. So I will not spend much more time on this. I think that maybe I can answer questions.
Thank you, Dr. Giraud, for sharing that wonderful presentation. Just for our viewers, I would like to add that in addition to the scholarships that have been shared from the university side, you are of course free to apply to any scholarships from the university of your choice. But please do not forget that the French Embassy in India also has scholarships that you can apply for. And it's not like you can take one or the other. Very often, you can have one scholarship from the university to cover your tuition fees and another scholarship from the embassy to cover your living expenses. And all mathematics programs at the master's level are eligible for the Sharpak scholarship, which if you are going to be a student in the 2021 academic session, is actually open for applications at the moment. Thank you, Dr. Giraud, again. And now I'd like to invite Dr. Noren Masher to share a little presentation on the doctoral school.
Okay. Thank you. So let me share also some description about the doctoral school. So as I said, it's called École Doctorale de Mathématiques Hadamard. So again, Hadamard is Jacques Hadamard, this famous French mathematician. And École Doctorale is a form. It's not exactly graduate school. It's really, I would say, doctoral school, because it only supervises the PhD level, not the master level. So we are after the master level. Okay. So I will try to explain a bit. Okay. Christophe has already said that we are both the master and the PhD are organized across two big universities, which are called Université Paris-Saclay and Institut Polytechnique de Paris. So here on this slide, I've described the various colleges or components of both parts. So the left part is Université Paris-Saclay. Okay, so there's one part which is the part of Orsay, which is the Faculté des Sciences d'Orsay. Okay, which is where we are both located. Okay, which was used to be called Université d'Orsay before. Now it's called Faculté des Sciences. Okay, because it's just one component of this big Université Paris-Saclay. But there are other components. There are other universities which used to be individual universities and which are now part of this bigger entity, which are Université de Versailles, which is situated about 20 kilometers, maybe 15 or 20 kilometers from here. There is Université d'Evry also, which is a bit further. And there is an engineering school, Centrale Supélec, École Centrale Supélec, which is a famous engineering school in France. There is this École Normale Supérieure Paris-Saclay, okay, which used to be in Cachan, which used to be called the École Normale Supérieure de Cachan, which has moved recently, actually this year. They have moved to a very new, great building nearby. Okay, so this École Normale, it's not an engineering school. It's oriented towards academia, but both for pure mathematics, pure science, and applied science as well. It's not just for math; it's for all science. Okay, and the recruitment is a bit different. People are recruited there through this competitive grandes écoles. Okay, so it resembles an engineering school. It's not exactly, but it resembles. But it's also very high level. And we have also a research center, famous research center in mathematics and theoretical physics nearby, which is called IHES. Okay, which has several Fields Medal. It's a small foundation. It's a somehow privately run foundation but where people are working on fundamental mathematics, okay, and theoretical physics, and it is nearby. So some people can do PhD there or postdocs there. So this is the Université Paris Saclay, and we are connected also with national research centers like CNRS. CEA, it's Atomic Energy Commission, okay, which also has a big research center nearby. INRAE is agronomical research, and there is a lab which uses mathematics, and with applied mathematics is applied to biology. INRIA is a national center for computer science, okay, and there's also a big research center nearby, okay, and so these research centers also are providing PhD advisors, for instance, for our PhDs. Okay. Here, so the second part of our graduate school is somehow this second big university called the Institut Polytechnique de Paris. So I'm sorry I did not write it here. And it is composed only on grandes écoles, so engineering schools. Okay. So the biggest one is the École Polytechnique, this one here. And there are also two schools of telecom oriented towards applications to telecommunications and computer science, so Telecom Paris, Telecom Sud Paris. There's a school of another engineering schools, which is connected with a bit connected with the military, like the École Polytechnique, called ENSTA, okay, École Nationale Supérieure des Techniques Avancées, which is also nearby. And there's a statistics school, ENSA, it's École Nationale des Statistiques Appliquées à l'économie, des applications à l'économie. So it's a school of statistics. Okay. And all these schools are situated not too far, and they are making this Institut Polytechnique de Paris, this second big university. Okay, and our doctoral school supervises math PhD in mathematics in both these two big universities, plus a little component at the École Normale Supérieure in Paris, okay, which has a few students registered to our doctoral school. Okay, so that this is to describe. So here I'm making some publicity, okay, because this is also the goal of this publicity. But as you say, we had let's say we are very successful as far as Fields Medal are concerned, for instance. So on the perimeter we had 10 Fields Medals. Okay, so some of them received it. Most of them, I think, they received the Fields Medal when they were working here. Some of them left afterwards. Okay, maybe they wanted to change the air, but at least they got the medals when they were working on our perimeter here. We also have a recently Abel Prize, a Wolf Prize, and various prizes. And also we also have national PhD prizes. Okay, we have quite a few students, PhD students, who get a prize, an award right after the PhD for distinguishing the PhD. Okay, so this is also important. So I will give some numbers, not too many, but about the number of students. So every year we have globally, we have about a bit more than 300 registered PhD students. So since a PhD lasts about 3 years or 3 years and a few months, I would say that every year we have about 100 new PhD students, arriving PhD students or starting PhD, 100 every year, dispatched over these two big universities. So here, okay, you don't have to look precisely at all these numbers, but you can see that there are big differences. Okay, some of these components of school have only a handful of students, like Centrale Supélec in mathematics, you have a handful of students. École Polytechnique has much more, you have about 80 students. There are two labs, one lab more in fundamental mathematics, the other one more in applied mathematics, and the applied mathematics component has a huge number of students, like about 70 students. Okay, École Normale Paris Saclay also has quite a load of them. Okay, now then some smaller schools, and you have Orsay, which is also a very big component. Orsay plus a few side labs have about globally about 100 students. So if you want to split between the two big universities, I would say it's half. Okay, half students in one Université Paris Saclay, half in Institut Polytechnique de Paris. All right, so as Christophe explained, we cover all branches of mathematics, okay, fundamental, applied, and interface at the interface with other sciences or with interface with economics, okay. We have many foreign students. I would say 1/3 of PhD students are foreigners. So maybe this is a bit less than what is nationwide. If you compare with the PhD students in France, globally in France, maybe there are more foreign students than on our perimeter, okay, which means that we still attract many French PhD students. And among these 1/3 of students, almost all of them, I mean 90% of them, have obtained a master in France. So as Christophe has explained, it is of course not compulsory, but it is advised. Maybe it's more it's more convenient, let's say, to come here for one last year of master. You don't have to come for 2 years. You can come just for the last year. If you already have a first year of master in your home university, you can apply to a second year of master in France, which will give you access to professors and which will give you access to the French education system and help you. Maybe it will be easier than to find an appropriate PhD advisor. Okay. And I would say that women are still, unfortunately, not very not very well represented. Okay, about 20% of our PhD students are women. Okay, which is still quite low, quite a very low number, I would say. Okay, so what maybe interests you most is how can I get to the PhD program at Université Paris-Saclay or Institut Polytechnique de Paris? First, you must have a master before. Okay, this was stated. I said already that most of PhD students have obtained a master in France, not necessarily in our university, but somewhere in France. Okay, but most of them, it's not all of them. You can also come directly from abroad. Okay, so this was explained already. The master and somehow, how are we selecting students? First, the first thing to do for an applicant is to find an advisor. Somehow, we are not providing the doctoral school does not provide advisors. So if you cannot apply to the doctoral school and say, hi, I want to do a PhD at Université Paris-Saclay. This is not how we work. We expect the students to be proactive, that is to contact possible advisors, depending on their research topic, depending on what they're interested in. So for that, you have to do your own research. You have to go to the lab website. So you have to look at the people there, what they're doing, on what topic are they working, and then start to look at what subject would interest you and contact the people. Okay. So of course, from abroad, when you do that from abroad, it is a bit more difficult than if you do it directly starting from France. If you already work in a master in France, it's easier to contact people and go to discuss with them. Okay. Of course, you can do with Skype or Zoom, but so this is why actually I would say that most of our students have done some master in France, because when somehow the advisors are, I would say, more confident when they see a student who is working who is preparing a master in France than if the student is coming from some remote university in some foreign country. Okay. Of course, there are very famous places in India, like in any other country, but there are also less famous ones. So if you come from some university which is not so famous, the chances to attract the attention of some advisors is not so high, I would say. So this is why we encourage students to apply to masters in France, because when you have a master here, at least the advisors knows about what to expect from you. Okay, so he's more confident, I would say. So this is why the first part really of application to a PhD is really to contact PhD advisors. Okay, to look for and to ask if there is a subject, if he or she proposes a subject and so on. So this is the most critical part. And then in the second step, you can apply to the graduate school, and including applying to funding, applying to fellowships. Okay, but this is in the second stage, I think. And then what I would say that the graduate school organizes, there's a system of selection, with auditions, with the juries, etc. Okay, but somehow the most important part is to contact and to agree to get a PhD project together with the PhD advisors. Okay, there are a few PhD tracks. So few PhD tracks, there are a few fellowships which are already somehow the university already keeps some money for excellent students to propose to them both master funding and PhD funding in a row. Okay, but there are just a few of them. So so far this is not the standard way to function. Okay, and if you're interested to do a PhD, you can do a PhD in two universities together. Okay, it's called co-tutelle in France. It's a joint PhD preparation between a French lab and a foreign lab. Okay, but for this, of course, you need two advisors, one in each university, and you need the two advisors to know each other somehow. Okay, so this in general, this is not really organized from scratch by the student. It's organized when two advisors know each other and are interested to work together. Okay, but this is a possibility. Okay, to have a joint PhD. All right, so I'm a bit late. Maybe I will not dwell too much on this. Okay, we have the course of this École Doctorale Hadamard. We are not just waiting for the student to do his research. We also organize some professional training. Okay, some training sessions, and it's quite free. But we expect the student also to take some training sessions in various directions. So scientific training means that we expect the student to go to conferences, to go to summer schools, etc. And there's a second part, which is more professional training, okay, which takes various forms. It can be, for instance, learning French, is part of this professional training, because if you're in France, somehow learning French is part of it's important for your job. So there also, if you want to go to a job fair, if you want to try to teach to write a CV or to go to a job interview, I mean, this type of professional training. Okay, you can also do some how do you say, math propaganda, that is so outreach mathematics. If you take part of outreach actions, that can be counted as a training. Okay. And you also have possibilities to fund long stays in foreign institution. It can be some foreign institute like MSRI or Newton Institute, which organizes sessions for trimesters or semesters. And this can be funded as well. Okay. All right. So I think I'll stop here, and thank you for your attention. So if you have any question, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Giraud and Dr. Noren Masher. I would like to, just before we move on to the questions from the viewers, I would like to invite Mr. Aveek Mukherjee to the floor. Mr. Mukherjee, please tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you find yourself at INP Grenoble, and how was your university experience?
Right. Well, before I moved into my master's, I was working in India. Right. I worked there for 3 years, and after that, I wanted to get a foreign exposure. Right. And this is where I started researching. And I chose INP Grenoble first of all because of the quality of education. And at the time when I came, the education was very cheap. I paid only 250 euros per year. I think the recent amendment has changed that a bit. There are many universities which might not have accepted that new amendment as well. So we need to figure that out from respective universities. But yeah, these are the two options. That the effective cost of my education was even cheaper than many places in India, for example. Right. So I wanted to primarily get an exposure to a foreign education, and INPG is very well known in the country, not only in France but also for a computer science background is quite well known. Computer science, especially in data machine learning and data science, there are very well known, worldwide renowned researchers over there. So that was the primary interest of me to choose my college, and yeah, and after that my motivation was again to get back to industry, the quickest possible route to get back to industry. Right. So that's where I moved into, as I said, General Electric as a lead position data analytics. And after that, right now I have moved into a specialized domain, that is a specialized domain in the domain of applied mathematics or data science. That's recommendation engines, and where we again work with a lot of mathematics. And this is where I want to specialize. So that's where I'm heading a team here in the applications of recommendation engine, and what are the real world applications, like how do you see the user experience improve thanks to these mathematical models, thanks to these deep mathematical things? How do you really impact a user's life through a consumer? How do you touch a consumer's life, right? So that's really an application of mathematics in user experience, and this is the field where which interests me a lot. That's the field of human computer interaction, or technology human interaction, right? And these are the connections that I made in my life, basically.
Thank you. I think we have time for two questions from our viewers, although I see that Professor Giraud has been very active in answering the questions on our chat box as well. So we had actually two questions coming in saying, what are the scholarships and fellowships that are available for master's programs? The scholarships, as you have mentioned, are the two that exist in University of Paris Saclay. From India, of course, you can also apply to the university, to the Sharper Scholarship and the Eiffel Scholarship as well. If you apply early enough, please get in touch with your local Campus France manager, who will be advising you on the next steps. One very specialist question coming in, is there a necessity to learn MATLAB? How much is that used in your questions? Dr. Giraud or Dr. Noran Masher, if you are.
Yeah, so I think that MATLAB is not that much used now. So MATLAB first is used if you want to do a simulation or if you want to do some applied math. But more and more people are using Python because Python is it is free, it is shared. In machine learning, everybody is using Python. More and more people in simulation is using Python. So now more and more people are using Python instead of MATLAB. And which is nice, it is free, so we enjoy to teach something which is free. And well, essentially, of course, if you want to do some applied math, it is a good thing to learn Python. But this is something that also you can learn during your master program if you come in a master program. So it depends on which level you come and what you want to do, essentially.
And our last question for today, can someone with this is actually quite an interesting question. We get this quite a lot. For someone who's coming in from an applied science background, so not a pure science background, someone who's coming in with a bachelor's in engineering, if they wish to integrate into a mathematics program in their master's, maybe switch up their domain a little bit, how much is that possible and what would be your advice?
Okay, so I'm sorry, I just missed the question because I was translating euros into US dollars.
Yeah, the question is for students who are coming in from applied science background, essentially an engineering background in India, not a pure science background. So, but if they wanted to integrate into a mathematics program at their master's level because they wanted to change their domain, how much is that possible? And what would
it really depends on the background. There are some people in some engineering program which have a very strong level in math because they have followed many math courses, and they can apply at the M1 level, and then you start from the M1 level and you can do everything that you want. But if you do not have a strong level, then you should go 1 year before, because otherwise you will really have issues to follow.
That is all the time we have with us today. A big thank you to our panelists, Dr. Giraud, Dr. Noran Masher, and Mr. Mukherjee for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Okay.
And best of luck to
and
everyone.
Good luck to all the students. Good luck to the students, and we encourage them to apply to our universities. We don't have many Indians, as I said, so okay, really.
You are welcome.
The life is yours. Yes.
To our viewers at home, stay safe, and don't forget to tune in next Tuesday when we have a special program on alumni testimony. Do not forget to sign up for our Choose France Tour 2021 to meet directly with more universities. It is going to be completely online this year on 26th and 27th February, so you can log in from wherever you are. The pre-registration link is now live and shared on the chat box. Thank you for watching.